rabbi to teach them to pray. They're seeking his perspective. They're seeking his understanding. They're seeking his worldview, if you will. What was the most important thing? What was the thing that they should focus on? And this was a very common thing that took place. And so the disciples knew how to pray, but they were wanting the rabbi to teach them his perspective, his understanding. And so Jesus begins to explain to them, and he gives them this prayer that we have that's commonly referred to as the Lord's Prayer in Matthew chapter 6, and beginning in verse number 9. And we've gone through the first half of this prayer. Jesus says, and pray like this: Father, literally Father of us, your name is holy. Your kingdom come and your will be done. The last couple of weeks we've been parsing this, and this is what I would refer to as the beginning of the first half of the prayer. But one thing that you don't want to miss, which is something I think the disciples might have wrestled with, but I think there's something that you begin to see unfold as the New Testament continues to unfold. Jesus begins by saying, Father of us, literally, or your translation might say, our Father. There are two things here that you need to note. Father of us, our Father, immediately puts on the stage the idea that there are two parties here. Two parties. Father, us. It does, yes, describe or depict a certain type of relationship. And those things would have meant various things to the Jews. And again, like I said, this was a new concept, something they would have wrestled with. Father. If you want more details about this, you go and listen to our previous messages on this. But I won't go into all the details here. But essentially, the idea of God and man connected here. And the first half of this prayer is all about God, but right under the surface is man. Because this prayer would have tapped into the covenant relationship that the Jews had with God. And remember, this is whom Jesus is speaking to. Not you, but to his disciples who asked him to pray. And so now we as disciples look at this and ask ourselves, what is it in this thing that's going to help us? And what I believe this does is helps us give a new perspective, an idea of the role that we play as God and man connected in this covenant. And so the first half of the prayer is all about God, but man is right under there. Our Father. Then he says, your name is holy. Your kingdom come. Your will be done. And remember the idea. Here are the things, very simple things. There's a lot of complex stuff that we can unfold and we can unravel and we can talk about and we can apply. But here's the specific things that you need to keep note of. Your name. In other words, your character. Remember, name is directly connected to the person's character. Your name. We understand your name is holy. Your character, who you are, how you do things, how you want things done. It is for the best. We get that. And it is quite like no other. In fact, it is the other. It's not like us. We acknowledge that is what the idea here is. And the reality is that your kingdom, your order, your way of doing things. Remember, the term kingdom was political. It was a loaded term. It was an electrical term. Again, I've unpacked this for 3 weeks now. The idea of how you would order things. And remember, they understood how empire worked. They understood how kingdoms worked. And kingdoms worked with war, with oppression, with violence. And it was those who were in power were all about reordering things in such a way that it would benefit them in their kingdom. They understood how empire worked very well. And so when Jesus says your kingdom, he's talking about a new way of ordering things. And in fact, if you want to know what that was, well, just back up. Begin in Matthew 5. And here it is. This is the way you order things, because your nature and your character is holy. We understand the way you order things, the way you want things done, it's for the best. And it would be better than what we have now. And then, again, you have to go back to their current situation and what they're facing and how life was for them. The oppression was real. It wasn't just a term just kind of thrown out there. It was real. But your kingdom, your way of doing things, your order, your way of ordering things, how you want things to be, your will, your desire, let it come right here and right now on earth as it is where you are. That's the picture. And intuitively, right under the surface, as the apostles are there saying, hey, look, we have this covenant relationship with God. We're connected here as God. It's all about you. We acknowledge you. You're the author. You're the beginner. You're the one who is responsible for it. You run this house. And how you want things done is for the best. It's actually also an acknowledgement that things are not the way that they should be. They're not the way that they should be. And we also understand that we play a role in that. And so what does that look like? What should that role be? That's the second half of the prayer. Because the first half is all about God. You, your character, your name is holy. Your kingdom, your will. May it be here as it should be. And then the question might arise, so what does that mean for us? I mean, this would have tapped into their covenant relationship with God. Remember, your name, your character, and they were supposed to carry that name. Remember the commandment, don't take the Lord God's name in vain? Didn't just have to do with speech. We think of taking God's name in vain as to do with saying God's name in a certain sentence that is disrespectful. Okay, and again, that's not necessarily a good thing to do, but that's not the idea. The idea literally is to take up and carry it. They were to mirror, to reflect who God was in their conduct, and that was the whole purpose of the laws, to help them reflect some things, and it took them from where they were to a better place. Now, we would now look back and look at those laws and say, wow, scratch our heads and think those things weren't, well, we would not be okay with some of those laws today, but if you understand where they were before these laws were there, you would say, yeah, it's a whole lot better than where they were. But they understood this. These were the concepts in which they lived. They were tied to these things. So what's our role then? What do we play? How do we help bring this about? Because they understood that that was their responsibility as a people, as a nation. And this covenant relationship with God was to help bring about this new way of doing things, which would ultimately culminate in the Messiah coming ruling over the Jews and all the nations. See, the Jews understood themselves from some perspective as being a nation of priests. They would serve that priestly role among the nations, among the world. They were the bridge, the yoke. So Jesus says, and pray like this. Give us, forgive us, and lead us. So he says, give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Let's start with this phrase. Give us this day our daily bread. Oh, that's a loaded phrase. We might think, no. First, give. Give. In the Greek, it's imperative. You know what that means? I demand it, I want it all, and I want it now. That's the picture. It's a very intense word. Give it right here, right now. Give us this day, right here, right now. Give it to me. It's not saying, hey, if you think about me, could you just maybe, I don't know, help me out a little bit? No. It is a demand. You demand. You say you give. Get it? God, you got to understand now the beginning of the prayer. We acknowledge who you are. We acknowledge you're the author. We acknowledge you run this place. We acknowledge who you are, your character, your ability. We acknowledge how you want to do things, how you do it. It's for the best. We acknowledge that. That might be what you want to do before you start giving demands. Jesus says, give us this day, right here, right now. Give us what? our daily bread. Now, I have to mention this for in case if you have heard another teaching on this. Some will argue that what Jesus is saying here is give us the bread that we will need for tomorrow, today. And the reason why that's the case is because in the Greek, I know, I'm sorry, but I have to say this for in case if you hear something else and then you'll say, well, it might be this. There's a structure that's used here in the Greek that I don't believe you find anywhere else, at least in the New Testament. And you might literally translate it this way. Our bread coming upon us, give us this day. Or it might be literally translated. See, it's never, translations are tricky. Or it might be this. Our bread for our going upon, or your journeying, right? Give us this day. What? I think our English translations actually got this one right. I think all he's saying is this. Hey, give us what we need for each day that we need it. For every day that we are alive. For every day as we continue on this journey. For every day that we need it, please give it. For what we need on this day. So Jesus says, pray like this. And I don't know about you, but at this point I'd be quite confused. Give us this day our daily bread. Well, here's the thing you need to understand about bread. The concept of bread. Bread is entangled in economy. It's a very political term, and it represents this idea of power, believe it or not. Now, you might say, well, bread just symbolizes the things that you would need to sustain your life that day. Yeah, those things that don't easily come for people of that century, for people of that time. In fact, the term bread, right, is the thing that represents how you feed yourself, right? How you feed your family. Your life is bound up in bread. Get that? Gluten-free stuff? Yeah, that ain't working, right? Your life is bound up in bread. It is the most basic necessity that you had. And they understood that. In fact, in the great Colosseum, one of the things that they said that they did for the people was give them what they needed and also gave them what they wanted. What they needed was bread. What they wanted was a circus. And they gave them both. They understood, political powers understood how to control the people, how to control the supply, how to reorder things in such a way that it would benefit them and their kingdom and how they wanted things done and what they wanted their world to look like. And bread was one of those things. Because think about it. Doesn't it always seem to, in the Bible, there always seems to be an issue with people being hungry? You ever notice that? People always seem to be hungry. Where do you think all these people came from who were in the wilderness that Jesus feeds? Thousands of people. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I know we'll make arguments about, well, the setup would have been this way, and if Jesus spoke, then all 5,000. You have a hard time hearing me here, and I have a microphone on. You think 5,000 people would have heard Jesus? Come on now. Let's get real here. What were they doing out there? What was going on here? We know that the world, there was enough bread for everybody. There was enough food for everyone. So what was the problem? Why every time you turn around, it seems like people were hungry, people were starving, people were poor? If there was enough bread, what does that tell you? That the people who controlled it, somebody was keeping it from being available to everyone. Somewhere, someone was controlling the distribution of food, and it was affecting them. And we know this to be true. In fact, when you think about the taxation, just specifically in Galilee, yeah, good luck surviving. Some estimate up to 90% taxation. And people couldn't feed themselves. They couldn't feed their families. And you have a guy who can get bread out of thin air. Where do you think you're going to go this weekend? Where do you think you're going to be? Yeah, you're going to go after that. Right? You're dying. You're starving. You need food. This was a common issue in the first century. This was the layout of the land which Jesus did his ministry. And this is what people were suffering with during that time. So there's the idea of bread and the things that they're experiencing immediately in their culture, their circumstance. Yeah, but you see, the idea of bread is interlinked within their DNA. And by Jesus talking about this bread for this day, it's all about today. And what that would do would bring up to, it had the power to provoke in their minds something that happened a long time ago. Something that was a part of their story. And Jesus is inviting them to not forget your story. Because their present circumstances weren't the best, were they? God, we acknowledge who you are. We acknowledge that things here aren't the way that they should be. There's something amiss here. There's something going on here. And we want it to be how you want it to be. That tells you that they understood that things just aren't right. And it would remind them as of a time where they were freed from oppression. They were delivered out of the hands of the Egyptians. And it would take them all the way back to Exodus. I believe it's Exodus 16. They're headed towards the promised land. And what happens? Things are a bit uncomfortable. They're not the way they used to be. They start crying over garlic and herbs and peppers. And they tend to forget the fact that they were oppressed. Well, yeah, but at least we had what we needed. Things were done in a certain way. We understood the routine, and that's what we liked. And at least we knew that we would have food for the next day. At least we knew what we were doing. Right now, they're headed towards the promised land. They don't know where they're going. And they're hungry. They're complaining. They're murmuring, right? And then what happens? God gave them manna. Meaning what? I don't know what it is. That's what it means. I don't know what this is. Literally, what is it? So he gave them manna. But here's the thing. When God gave them manna, what did they do with that? They set up enterprises, based an economy on it. Whoever got the biggest portion of land got the most manna, and they could sell that stuff even online. Amazon, 1 day delivery, which means 2 days, not 1 day. What did they? No. You picked up just what you needed for that day, and that's it. You got what you needed for that day. Think about it. Give us this day our daily bread. Jesus says, don't forget your story. There was a time when you were oppressed, and you were freed from that oppression, and things weren't necessarily easy, right? Things didn't necessarily go your way. There were bumps in the road. You got frustrated, and you complained, and you maybe even wondered, where's God in this? But somehow, some way, you made it through that. And you're here today. You were given exactly what you needed when you needed it for this day. And in fact, this idea of being all about today is something scattered throughout Jewish literature. In fact, what I would refer to as the sage wisdom in Proverbs chapter 30, listen to what's said here. 2 things I ask of you, Proverbs 37. 2 things I ask of you. Deny them not to me before I die. Here's the first. Remove far from me falsehood and lying. There's number 1. Here's number 2. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with the food that is needful for me, lest I be full and deny you and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and profane the name of my God. In other words, maybe you might want to read it this way. Give me neither poverty or riches, because either might cause me to react, respond, reflect, conduct myself in such a way where it does not reflect who you are. It'll make me feel like I've got it all. I got it made, and who needs you? Or it might make me respond in such a way that says, psh, where are you? You don't love me. You don't care for me. The idea is presented over and over and over and over again. Help me, provide me, give me today what I need so that I can conduct myself in such a way that it reflects who you are. I acknowledge who you are. Now may I help me that I might reflect you. And help me do this by giving me what I need for today. It's still all about today. Help me focus on today and do the things that I need to do today to reflect you today. May I not be caught up in the past or so focused on the future that I miss the opportunity. I got to get right on the edge. Miss the opportunity to do what I need to do today to reflect you in this moment, in this time. See, there's none of that, well, one day I'll get there and do this, and then this will happen, and I'll be able to do that. He says, no. I get your situation may not be the best. I get that there are stresses. I get that there are frustrations. I get that things don't seem to be working out the way that they should work out. Everything you do blows up in your face. And where's God in all of this? Will the judge of all the earth do right? Right? He says, I get it. So what you need to do is this. You acknowledge the one you reflect. And you pray. And you ask that you'll have what you need to stay focused in the moment, in this time, on this day. There's no coincidence why Jesus goes on and he says, seek first the kingdom. Don't worry about this. Don't be focused on that. And this prayer is all about helping us be able to actually do that. Help me just focus on today. Yeah, like right now, here and now, while I'm speaking, you, where you are, in this sacred space. What do you hear? What do you hear? What is God saying to you through these words? What is it that constantly pulls you out of the here and now, filled with regrets or worries? What is it that constantly gets your attention where you're not able to mirror or reflect God in the moment, in the here and now? What is it that keeps you from asking, what does it look like for me to love in this situation? How do I love in the here and now? See, and the prayer is, hey, trust that God will give you what you need when you need it. Don't forget your story. Now, this prayer, I see it as an invitation to be present in this moment. No matter what you're facing, no matter what you're thinking about, no matter what's going on in your life, the prayer is an invitation to be here in this moment. And to live in this moment in such a way that it reflects the one who gives you everything you need. It's an invitation to not forget your story. Where you've been. What you've gone through. How many people have stressed and worried and basically got themselves sick over something that now today when you look back, you think, what? Really wasn't that big of a deal. Sometimes it's within the hour, right? We're so worried and focused and stressed over this thing, and within the hour, you done forgot about it. And it's not a big deal anymore. How many things have we gone through in our lives where when you were going through it, you wondered, how am I going to get out of this? In this moment, you're thinking nothing will ever be the same again, and maybe it hasn't been. But you could not see a way out. You could not see how things would get better. It's an invitation to say, somehow I got what I needed. And I'm here today. Don't forget your story. You've been under oppression in the past. And you've been freed from that oppression. The fact that you are here today says something. What does it say? Somehow, some way, you were given exactly what you needed. Whatever that was. And here you are today. Don't forget that. I believe that this is a statement of trust. Full trust in that all I have to do is focus on being in this moment. And things will work out one way or the other, even if I don't understand how. So just give me enough for today. Right? Give me today's provisions, because if I don't forget my story, I remember I got what I needed in the past. And this does something for us. It does three things. It frees me up from having to worry. It frees me up from having to worry or fear or be stressed over whatever. It frees me up to live in the moment and do what I can in the moment. Now, you want to know what that is? Back up and go read Matthew 5. We could just start there. What does it look like to live in the moment? I challenge you, go read back Matthew 5 and see what it says. What does it look like to live in the moment? How do you respond to things, to your surroundings? How you treat people? How you see yourself? Your world perspective? Who you are? All that lives out in the moment. And this reordering of things, Jesus, go back, Matthew 5. This is what this reordering things looks like. Which is why Jesus would say in Matthew 5:48, to be as your heavenly Father is. And being focused in the moment helps me to actually reflect, right? To mirror, to carry the Lord's name. That's what that means. To carry the Lord's name, to conduct myself in such a way that it reflects the one who I acknowledge as being behind all of this. And so the prayer is yet another invitation. Because here's the thing. As we mirror the divine in the present moment, this is what's happening. We are helping to reorder things the way that they should be. We can sit back. This isn't stuff to philosophize about. This isn't stuff to write a report about. This is stuff to live out, literally. It's not about being philosophical about what's the divine look like and who is he or she or it and what's the role how does all that, no. It's the idea of I literally help to bring about a new way of doing things by literally doing things differently. I know, huh? Yeah, by literally doing things differently. And if I just simply mirror the things that Jesus, let's just start Matthew 5. it has an impact on the world and on the people around me. And it has the power and the ability to bring out a new way, a new order. And that's how I carry his name. But you know, there are things that keep us from being able to do that in the moment, right? There's all the stuff that we tend to hold on to that's back here. And then there's all the other stuff that we don't know about in the future here, and we know we can't control. And that keeps us from being here, and so we're either there or we're there. How do I stay focused in the moment? So the prayer is this: acknowledge the one who is behind all of this. Acknowledge that you want things done the way that he would have things done. You want to see this new ordering of things in the world. And you want to play a role in helping that be. And so ask him to help you to be simply in the moment. Because it's in the moment that you reflect him. And your reflection helps to bring about a new ordering of things. But Jesus doesn't stop there. But you don't want me to continue to preach now. So what I'll do is say a prayer. And we will not pick this up next Sunday. But we'll talk about it the Sunday after that. Because Jesus simply says, listen, be different. Forgive, send away, and lead us. Help us to not be like this there. And so in this moment where Jesus says, pray like this, how about we pray like this? God, give us what we need just for today, so we can be focused just on this day and mirror you in these moments, seeing the role that we play in bringing about a new way of doing things. Help us to be present today.